before we get into the singing, let's talk about piano touch. So everyone has this imagination that pianists practice by doing all these crazy things, and really what they're doing when they practice, really good pianists, is that they're hitting the note and they're trying to just get all of the tones out of the note. Now, you can't do this with a keyboard or an upright piano. It has to be a baby grand or bigger, because otherwise you don't have that crazy dynamic range. So where this becomes important is, look at when she goes back up on the piano. The other thing she's doing before she even goes back up, she's hitting the high note harder with her pinky. She's stiffening up the pinky a little bit to make the high note ring so you can hear what's happening melodically. This is another, like, piano technique gets in, like, it's involved. The way you have to move your fingers and all of that is crazy. But listen to the contrast. That dynamic, we're getting to the singing. That dynamic being very soft, you have to get to the bottom of the key and touch very lightly. And it's really tough. So just props to her piano chops.
Blue likes to drop sometimes, one by one, but I don't mind. No, I don't mind. Because luck is on my side, I feel the drip drop non-stop, pour on tonight. So what if the rain falls?
Ooh. So they do a lot of different stuff when it comes to tying off the phrase. In more recent performances, they use vibrato and more classical, and then tie the phrase off with not that. Whereas here the inverse is true. She's singing much more contemporary straight tone style, and then adding the vibrato just a little bit at the end.
Sometimes one by one, but I don't mind. No, I don't mind.
And interestingly enough, so when you sing classically, you need a really, really, really consistent breath pressure. A lot of singers make the mistake in thinking they understand lip trill and tongue trill, because they're, I can do it. That's not the point of the exercise. I feel like no one's ever taught the point of the exercise. The point of the exercise is to be able to do, but have it be consistent. I was actually losing it at the end there. Anyway, so... but when you sing pop, actually don't necessarily want that if you want this more straight tone style. You actually need to kind of like give air and kind of like take it back. And then when you go for the vibrato at the end, that's when you give it consistently.
No, I don't mind. Because luck is on my side, I feel the drip drop non-stop, pour on tonight.
Yeah, really nice.
So what if the rain falls?
That's really hard. So to pull this off, okay, when a singer goes high, almost always at some point you need to tilt either your thyroid cartilage, which is that classical singing with vibrato, your cricoid cartilage, belting, aka, or you have to kind of keep raising your larynx, and your posture has to be immaculate, and your air has to be really, really, really gentle, and you can actually see it when she does it.
So what if the rain falls?
Come on, give me the, yeah. I wish they had a shot of her when she was doing it. The problem with not stretching out their folds with the thyroid or fattening them up with the cricoid, either one of those tilts, the problem is that you're working with super thinned out folds, like they're really thin, so they can blow open very easily if you put too much air behind it. So it's actually very deceptively difficult. Like if that's the note, right? Like the second I tilt, it's way easier. but it's hard not to get breathy on these notes. It just requires a tremendous amount of control to not squeeze your torso in any capacity and also have really good posture. That's the hardest part about singing. It's really tough to teach. Try yoga. It can help.
Let's find the God at the end of the rainbow. So what if the rain falls?
And you hear how the breathiness is in there. It's not a problem that it's in there, but the fact that it's there, I think, demonstrates the concept. It's not straight falsetto. Just to clarify a difference between head voice and falsetto, there is none. I know you're like, what did you say? Okay, hear me out. Falsetto, what I would call falsetto, but we're going to talk about how the voice actually works instead of throwing stupid terms. Like they don't explain anything, right? So pure falsetto, boom, your folds are just totally flipped open and it's just the edges of the fold that are vibrating. Okay? Where people, I think, find head voice or mixed voice is you can have vocal closure, little opening, a lot of opening. There's this whole range of motion, okay? So when we have thin folds like this and she's not tilting, right? What we're hearing is just a little bit of connection of the folds. It's not straight falsetto. There's some connection there. Yeah. And it's really important to understand that difference because people like constantly argue about it. And I think that's one of the most foolish things I see on Reddit. And I see a lot of foolish things on Reddit. And then immediately the breathiness comes as she tilts because that stretches out the vocal folds.
We'll shower in shimmers of gold. Blue likes to drop sometimes, all at once, but I don't mind.
I love when they harmonize, especially earlier when they were just like performing together all the time. Chloe will do things to emphasize lower frequencies, whereas Halle will do the opposite. It's not always the case. Depends on the tune. But it's most often, because it makes sense, right? Chloe has a little bit of a darker, richer, lower voice than Halle. So I'll point out the differences that what they're doing to change the tone.
Up sometimes, all at once, but
Chloe is very close to the microphone with her lips, very, very soft. So you can hear the difference between when I'm here and when I get really close to the microphone. This not only makes it louder, but the proximity effect ends up happening where lower frequencies are boosted. So this is how she's emphasizing the lows in addition to extending her lips. Think of maybe the lips as like a trombone, like mini effect, right? You put those lips out, it elongates the vocal tract, you're getting lower tones emphasized.
I don't mind.
And I hope they show Halle.
No, I don't mind.
Come on, let me see how this.
'Cause luck is on my side. I'm looking at where.
There's a smile there that affects the tone as well. Right, brightens it up. And this is the opposite effect, right? When you smile, you retract your lips, making the vocal tract smaller, highlighting higher frequencies. And you can see that the mic from Halle is not up close, right? They put a lot of work into blending, and it's something that just is so underappreciated by them. It is so cool to me because they're doing all of this without like little post-production tricks. There's a huge difference between being a performing artist and being a recording artist. It would take people that perform for many years together to nail this every single time it comes up.
Looking at where the man upstairs might live, fall on tonight.
Like that. That's such a good blend. Listen to this. It's crazy.
Fall on tonight. So what if the sky falls? We'll build
much more classical here.
Forgotten ghost. So what if the sky falls?
Notice how Halle is getting closer to the microphone here, right? Same idea. Softens her lips. They're trading off. Like I said, they're really, really, really good at blending.
We'll play hide and seek with the stars.
So good.
Let the rain fall, let the sky fall, let it all fall.
This sort of like using the breaks between registers is really cool for me, who has been trained out of it. Opera is basically getting rid of all of that, but I love how they will take from a genre but not be limited by it. So they've been doing a lot of classical stuff here. But that thing, when I do it, I sound like Tarzan. This is really disciplined. It's like a yodel. It's a great way to add a little bit of emotion and just, it's so, they get so specific about everything they do and add so much detail.
Let the rain fall, let the sky fall, let it all fall.
And this is interesting. So remember when I was talking about if you don't tilt, you know, your folds get very thin and it can come across as brittle. But what you can do to combat that is you can actually tilt and then use a little tension so that the vibrato doesn't happen. Right? If I release that, I can't do that if I go very high, but I can do it in the mids and even in the upper mids if my breath is gentle.
Let the rain fall, let the sky fall, let it all fall. Let the rain fall, let the sky fall, let it all fall. So if
That's exceptional. I'm pretty sure this is a belt from Chloe. I'm pretty sure, for a couple of reasons. Tilting your head back actually helps. The cricoid cartilage is very low in the larynx, so if my head is like really balanced on my spine, I don't have a lot of movement here. I don't have a lot of space to move. If I do that, it's much easier to tilt the cricoid in that instance. And then also the fact that she's backing away from the microphone. Belting is loud. It's very loud. It is only loud. there you can have dynamics relative to other belts, but it's gonna be loud.
Let's find the gold at the end of the rainbow. So if the sky falls.
Sorry, as much as I want to discuss the singing technique, the piano technique here is really important. So if you're trying to do something smooth, there's like this roll that you do with your wrist and you make your fingers really loose. What she's doing right now is like that. And it makes it's more like staccato or marcato than legato. Legato being very smooth, and then the other ones don't really worry about it. It's just boom, 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 boom is what it is. Nice. That's really beautiful.